Good evening, YouTube. Welcome to the ICBA post-draft power rankings with myself and Trevor. Say hi, Trevor.
Hello.
We're just going to be going through, we've got the Google Slides, we've got the teams, we're going to go through it. So, we're going to go from last place to first place, coming up and the number 15 slot, the Colorado Mammoth Swines. Now,
So, oh,
at first glance, we like the Victini pick, but sadly, Victini does not, in fact, carry a team. You're going to need more than that. Ryako needs to be dropped.
yeah, and you have a really big ground weakness. Like, it's not huge per se because you have some resistance. However, most of your resistances are low tier, and the big stuff that you drafted first, like Victini, Hellogo, Raiko, are all weak to ground.
Not to mention, you also did pick that lower tier Mega, and while I do agree with the extra points, maybe invest in some other picks, I don't think you invested in the right picks. Like Trevor
But
said, maybe
yeah,
investing in a better ground weakness and Salamence, which gets destroyed by, funny enough, a Mammoth Swan in your team gets destroyed by.
it actually does.
Alright, so that's just basically it. You've got a pretty big ground weakness. Your one amazing mon is Victini, but Victini is not. You need more than just Victini.
Yeah, and one other thing is that oh no, yeah, Blastoise. But I was going to say that your main hazard removal is Blastoise, and Salamence gets Defog. You're not always going to want to run that. But Blastoise, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not the greatest. And considering you drafted Victini and you kind of want to put your team around it, you probably want a little bit more hazard removal.
All right, we're moving up to the next team on the docket, which is the Brisbane Heatrons. At first,
So, oh,
you can go, Trevor.
um, so the Landorus, that's really good. I actually really like Landorus. It hits super hard. It can use Stealth Rocks if you really want to. It can be somewhat bulky, but Landorus is a little bit better. And you got Tangrowth, which is amazing because it can just eat up those hits that Landorus doesn't always want to take, like the water hits. Tyranitar's pretty good. Azumarill is always a threat. You got dual fairies, which, I mean, it's not a huge deal because Azumarill and Klefki don't share any weaknesses.
But looking at your team, we do see quite a growing, a bit of a grass weakness in Azumarill and Slowking, both of which are crucial to your team. Slowking
And
being
Tyranitar.
and Tyranitar, yes, sorry. All three of which could serve as great things in a team. For example, Tyranitar setting up Sand for Landorus, Azumarill setting up with Belly Drum. Anything like that gets stopped by a grass type. Also, I don't really like the Slowking pick. I believe that there are better Mons, and Slowking's pretty bad as far as
Yeah, I kind of disagree a little bit because Slowking Tangrowth is really good Regenerator core. I mean, it may be a little bit better. I'm not 100% sure on what was on the board, but I think Slowking's not a horrible pick. Audino, on the other hand.
Yeah, Audino. Why?
I
Uh,
mean, it gets Regenerator and Heal Bell, but it's not bulky at all.
I can see that your goal was a regenerator team and just to keep switching out, but like I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a hit that doesn't instantly wipe Audino off the board anyway.
Yeah, I just checked. It has 86 defense and special defense, which, I mean, it could be a lot worse, but considering Audino's only defensive, it's not that good.
All right, moving on to the next team, we've got the main red Clawitzers coming in. We see your walls, friend. You've got the Celesteela, you've got the Toxapex, you've got the Reuniclus, and you've got the Intimidating that comes in Gramble, which can also be run leftovers. It's great defensive. Gudra runs Assault Vest, can be pretty specially defensive. And Infernape as your wall breaker setup sweeper can be at times. I'll be honest, I don't think you should have drafted this much stall. Trevor here does draft stall like this, and I can tell you from his experiences as well as the experience I've had facing him, it's annoying for the first 2 or 3 weeks, but then you kind of figure out the pattern.
Yeah.
Once again,
And setup sweepers, a lot of time just run through stall.
you're going to see Celesteela. If you get Celesteela on the field, you're going to have to fear the setup. You get Toxapex on the field, you're going to have to fear the setup. Get Reuniclus on the field, people are going to know your Reuniclus. For example, in our last team, we saw Tyranitar just Pursuit Trap Reuniclus. People are going to be looking at your Reuniclus.
Yeah, and one thing with Celestial that I actually really like is that it's great defensively. And when I used Celestial for a whole season in one league, and I realized that setup like Autonomize was really good. It worked a lot. Like I probably got 3 or 4 sweeps within 8 weeks just with Celestial.
I do admire also your going into Crocodile and Gramble for the double intimidate to try to keep the attack on the sort of on the down low. You can even perhaps negate some sword stances that could get set up on such as a Toxapex or Celesteela. Um, Delmise is really good.
Piloswine pick. I mean, Piloswine is okay. I've seen it used fairly well, actually. It gets Stealth Rocks, which is something that your team lacks a little bit, because Infernape, like, it's a good Stealth Rock setter, but it's also so good at many other things. And the same thing with Crocodile. It's a really good Stealth Rock setter, but you're also going to want to run, like, Scarf or... Does it get Sword Stance? I think it gets Sword Stance.
Who?
Crocodile.
Crocodile? I think it does.
All right, well, yeah, stuff like that. Piloswine, maybe drop it for a better Tier 5 Stealth Rock setter because you're not really going to be using that ice all that much because you got Mega Glalie, which hits really hard.
Moving on to the next team on the list, we've got the Golden State War Turtles with the Landers T, Heatran, Staraptor, Rotom Wash, Dragalge, Gardevoir, Meloetta, Sneasel, Ditto, Leavanny, and Mega Scizor.
The main thing that I saw, like, because you're one of the couple people that actually watched their team analysis at the time that we're recording this, and what I noticed is that your first 3 picks in Lando, Heatran, and Mega Scizor, while all very good, all have a 4x weakness, which that's okay in a sense because you can only run 1 hidden power. So if they have a Sylveon, for example, it can't hit all of those because it can only run 1 hidden power. But it kind of can get annoying because your main core is just going to get wiped out by a surprising hidden power or a Z move.
And then once your Mega Scizor or Landorus or Heatran do go down, you also have to, like many other teams, start fearing ground and fire. You've got Heatran, you've got Dragalge, both of which will get blown off the board. You've got Ditto, which could turn into the opposing ground type, but even then that's neutral, and you'd still take a ton of damage. Leavanny, Mega Scizor, of course, just getting wiped off the field by a fire move, so just be careful of that. Also ice affecting Landorus and Staraptor.
Yeah, Ditto. I really like Ditto. I think it's very, very good. I've seen it used very well. However, it's sometimes hard to pull off because, I mean, you usually run either Choice Scarf or Red Card. That's about all you ever see. So it can be really good, and I actually really like the pick. But I don't see you bring it every week. And Leavanny, it's just sticky webs. I get that.
All right. Moving on to the next team, we've got the Green Bay Pikachus. With the
Green Bay Pikachus. They have a really nice logo, actually.
I do like the logo. It's pretty cute.
But Thunderous Eye and Weavile, very good offensively. You got Darmanitan, great wall breaker. Komoro, very all good offensive. Stunfisk, the god pick. Doxus Defense, which is kind of like Cresselia, except a little bit more bulky. And it gets Stealth Rocks and Spikes, which is awesome.
I'm going to be honest. I do not really agree with the Deoxys Defense pick. I think if you're going to use it for the majority of the season, you are going to use it as really just an entry for Stealth Rocks and Spikes, and even then, you're probably not going to want to use that because then the people just start leading the Pursuit Trappers and stopping your Deoxys from doing anything. It doesn't have too much to offer offensive-wise, and really is just to sit there. It's kind of like a Chansey in a way. It's a better Chansey.
It's a way better Chansey.
It's a way better Chansey.
I disagree a little bit. Purely because it fits really well with this team, in my opinion. Because this team, it's more offensive, I'd say. And what you said about Pursuit Trappers, I mean, sure they can, but I don't think it's going to be doing much considering how bulky it is.
Alright, moving on to the next team, we've got the Great Lake Greninjas. Tapu Fini, Dugtrio, Volcarona, Amoonguss, Blissey, Espeon, Kyurem, Swallow, Hitmonlee, Zebstrike, and Mega Steelix.
I really like this at the beginning. After first 3 picks, I thought this was going to be one of the better teams in the league. It kind of got a little bit weaker, but it still has some good stuff. Mega Steelix, you want a low tier. Mega Steelix is okay in a sense. Finny is good. I don't like it as much as some people, but I've seen some people use it really well. Dugtrio, I actually think Dugtrio is going to be great for you this season. purely because of all the S tier mons, because you can just trap them. A lot of the times they won't be running the, man, I'm blanking on the name, the item that lets you switch out even if you're trapped.
I find that
Uh,
people often do underestimate Doug Trio, and I find Doug Trio to be amazing because while you do have to be hazardous, that I believe its HP stat is the one that's just pretty ridiculously low. It's
Basically, all of its defensives are pretty low.
yeah, but its speed and attack are pretty great, and you trap whatever's on there. So if you get something down in defense, like if they use a close combat or superpower, it's pretty much over for that mon.
Yeah, and it was shed shell. That's the item.
All right, you do have to also be worried about the psychic types because your Amoonguss and your oh god, what was Hitmonlee both are weak to that. Amoonguss is going to be your main wall, and you're going to want to keep that alive. And the psychic type's pretty much going to be force you out, so they can set up a calm mind. They can do anything they want. If it's a Mega Alakazam, there's some mind games to be played in the form of, I believe, the Energy Ball and other Focus Blast type moves it could carry.
Yeah, Firewater Grass Core is very good with two bulky and Tapu Fini and Amoonguss. Then amazing setup sweeper and Volcarona. Volcarona is very versatile because like I've ran the Z Wild Charge set and just O-Code stuff. It's a lot of fun to use.
All right. Next team in this draft is the Alabama Crimson Surf with Tapu Koko, Starmie, Dragonite, Chandelure, Donphan, Melodic, Muckalola, Mesprit, Lilligant, Steelix, and Pheromosa.
This is the 10th team, by the way. We weren't really saying that.
All right.
Oh, you go.
The Pheromosa, you're going to have to be wise with it. Pheromosa is a mon that is really hard to use because a Scarf wipes it off.
But also it can be Scarfed, which is a set that I just hate because when it was not banned in OU, I just always run into Scarf Pheromosa and be like, ha, my Scarflaila can outspeed, but it didn't. And then I got swept.
A Scarf Pheromosa is going to wipe everything, basically, but like just be hazardous that if you don't use it and they get a Rocks up, I see you do have some hazard removal and monsters.
Yeah, speaking of hazardous, you have two of the best spinners, which is just amazing. So, and that supports Dragonite really well.
So once the hazards are eventually moved off the field, because let's be honest, if you let them on the field, I might have to move you to 15. But just be careful if you're going to run like Sash Pheromone so that the rocks are off the field. But if they are on the field and you run Scarf, just be wary that you're not going to be able to switch moves, which you really shouldn't need to click U-turn and kill everything on the field. But
yeah, like when I saw you pick Pheromone, I remember just being like, wait, even though there are a bunch of S tiers unbanned, how did you not ban Pheromosa? Because it's so versatile, physical or special. It could just set up and sweep your whole team with Quiver Dance. It's going to be really cool to see.
All right, next team is going to be the Marlboro Mudsdales. I think I said
At number 9.
All right. You got the Keldeo, Skarmory, Diggersby, Sylveon, Umbreon, Golisopod, Whimsicott, Gigalith, Sandslash, Weezing, and Hoopa Unbound.
Hoopa Unbound, very, very good. It hits so ridiculously hard. It can be Choice Scarf, Life Orb, Specs, Band. We can go on, but we won't.
This was another team I actually did see your analysis video, and I did agree with that the Skarmory pick is going to be your switch-in for your lack of a better defensive mon, really. I do love it that you pick the Skarmory because it can, get your rocks, defog, roost, just be a nuisance in general.
Yeah, and the only real walls that I see you bring consistently are Skarmory and Umbreon. Occasionally Silvally can be bulky, but it's just an occasionally thing. I think that can be really good because your offense is pretty nice.
And I don't know what was on the board at the time, but I don't know if perhaps there was maybe a slightly better mon than Keldeo to pick. It works.
Keldeo is pretty good.
It is pretty good, and it'll work for your team, but perhaps a mon, perhaps just a pure fighting type would have suited you better. That's just really high up. Maybe an Infernape. I don't know what pick that went. If you would have picked Infernape, maybe it would have been better, but then you would risk the Hoopa Unbound if that was your first pick. Your Golisopod you must be weary of because, of course, the emergency exit. Oh god, the emergency exit. You get hit under 50, you're out of there. You're not going to be able to attack. It's just bad news all around. Whimsicott, pretty great. I love it. You can do Tailwind if you want. just to be a jerk. Tailwind Prankster, have some fun. The only problem is, once again, that thing can also not live a hit to save its life.
Yeah, and two last things is that Whimsicott, Prankster Tailwind, and as you just said, it won't live anything. If you can set up a Tailwind to die going to Hoopa, you can clean up a lot of weakened teams. And also the Sandslash pick. Now, I usually don't like Sandslash at all.
Sandslash is amazing.
I mean, it's a spinner, and that's why you got it, because you don't have a spinner, and your has removal besides that Skarmory. But the thing with Sandslash usually is that you just grab it for a spinner and you only bring it once. But with Gigalith, you have the sand. And Sandslash gets Sand Rush, which not many people know. So you could just surprisingly set up a Sword Stance and just sweep someone with Ground Stab, which a lot of teams are weak to.
Alright, next team on the list is the Oregon Ducklets. We didn't have your little logo, so we're going to be using the ICBA one for yours. We've got Clefable, Garchomp, Jirachi, Entei, Chestnut, Jolteon, Aerodactyl, Spirit Bomb, Kecleon, Rotom, Fanmega, Blastoise. While this team was not number one, you definitely have my personal favorite team on this entire league.
Yeah, it looks really scary.
Clefable, Garchomp, Jirachi, just those names. Garchomp can be run in a variety of different ways. Jirachi's just always fun to use with the flinch hacks. I'm sure you're not going to be making many friends in this league, but all the best to you. Clefable is just a wall. Oh god, no one likes Clefable. Entei, Mother Russia, throw a Choice Band on it. Sacred Fire, everything and everything.
Yeah, and Chestnut surprisingly bulky. You could have the spikes. You could belly drum. Very good. Jolteon, one of the best fast electric types. My favorite personally. It's just fast, volt switch around. It's going to be fun to use.
Then, of course, your suicide lead every week will be Aerodactyl, I assume. Just set up the
and
rocks.
You kind of have a mini ground weakness with Jirachi, Entei, and Jolteon, but Rotom Fan says no to that ground type. Given an air balloon, that levitate and flying type, nothing's going to hit you.
Moving on to the next team, we've got the Calgary Flame Wheels. Latias, Superior, Slowbro, Gliscor, Arcanine, Heracross, Drapion, Smeargle, Cryogonal, Raichu, Magearna. Now, I expect some creativity here, man. You've got Smeargle, and any team with Smeargle needs to be fun. Like, you should have been the one to grab Dugtrio to do the entrainment with Durant into Dugtrio so it can just win.
Entrainment doesn't work.
It works.
It does not work. Unless your opponent's never seen it before, they're not going to fall for it.
It'll work 2 weeks. Alright, so Latias, of course, amazing. Just drop Draco Meteors. No one's going to live, basically, except if it's a fairy, of course.
Latias, it gets Dragon Dance. You could set up, be the physical set. Magearna is very, very scary.
Magearna
because you can have the... Is it Automize or like shift gear that it gets?
Gear. It gets shift gear, which is what makes it ridiculous.
Yeah, it just sets up the speed, can sweep a lot of things when weakened. It's an incredible wall breaker, very, very bulky. I think it's going to be great to see.
Now, the only problem here is I don't really see the Raichu pick. I mean, I get that it's an electric type and you need an electric type, but Raichu... I just think there were better options, perhaps, instead of, like, maybe sacrificing a bit on Drapion. Maybe getting a Tier 5 Poison type and a Tier 4 Electric type, just whipping those out.
Yeah, and Fire Water Grass is very good with Superior, Slowbro, and Arcanine. I'm not the biggest fan of Superior. I know John is, though. It can be pretty good, though, because I've been 6-0'd by it once. And you have a bit of a nice weakness. I mean, you have some resistances, but it's not going to be a huge deal. But, yeah, Ice Beam, like Mamoswine, is just going to wreck you.
Ice Beam, Mamoswine.
Well, ice types, like Mamoswine.
Okay.
Actually, Mamoswine just 6-0s you.
Alright, next team on the board, we got the Rhode Island Rotoms. Also love the logo. But we got Tornadus T, Terrakion, Cresselia, Mimikyu, Rotom Heat, Shaman, Hitmonchan, Registeel, Skuntank, Lantern, and Kyurem Black. Now, this is another great team. You've got Kyurem Black, which is just a monster. You've got Terrakion, a really fast... I love Terrakion. I know Trevor's not a huge fan of it.
I think it's good. I just don't think it's a Tier 1.
And then on the complete other side of the coin, you've got Cresselia, which I dislike and Trevor loves. It's a great wall. Oh, everyone hates Cresselia. You drafted Cresselia, you probably got some mean looks.
Yeah, and like the sub calm mindset's very good. And what happens when you bring Cresselia every week, like I did for a couple leagues, was that they just start running toxic on like everything. Like I actually had a guy run toxic on everything he brought, which can be a nuisance. However, sleep talk, like with rest, and does it get sleep talk? It might. But anyway, Cresselia can just be a nuisance.
Then you've got, of course, Mimikyu who can just eat any hit, of course, because of the ability. You've got Rotom, he just eat eat hits from switch and overheat or volt switch or first overheat then volt switch. You've got Shaman, I expect all the puns here. You've got Hitmonchan, great fighting type. Registeel, great wall. Watch out because people are going to set up when they see the Registeel, and you might not be Reggie for that.
Yeah. Tornadus T and Kieran Black is going to be very cool to watch because Tornadus T is just one of those pivots. You just go in on something, run AV, you turn out, then you can go into Kieran Black because Kieran Black can just destroy a lot of teams. And there was one there. Oh, Cresselia does get sleep talk. I just checked.
All right. Moving on, we've got the New York Shelmets with Buzzwole, Tapu Bulu, Suicune, Fortress, Mandibuzz, Nidoking, Porygon 2, Manectric, Mismagus, Corsola, and Mega Charizard X. I love the Nidoking pick. I personally love that Mon. Bulu is pretty good. I don't like it as much as Trevor does. And Buzzwole, I think Trevor and I both agree, is just a monster.
Yeah, the main reason that this team is so high, which we actually only say the New York Shelmets are number 5, is that Fire Water Grass core. Mega Charizard X, it's just so good. Tapu Bulu and Suicune. That's going to be so annoying for opponents to take down because Tapu Bulu's offensive. Charizard can be really either defensive or offensive, and then Tapu and Suicune just sweeps people.
Then you're also going to have the mind games when you've got Fortress and Bulu on the same team. You got people are going to just keep trying to go for the poison moves to hit Bulu because Bulu can hit live some, or rather most fighting type moves, sorry. As well as the entire rest of your team can live some fighting type moves, like Nidoking can eat some, Porygon 2 eats too much, I hate that mon. Corsola, even though it might not live too many, maybe one if you're lucky.
Yeah, Corsola, it's a meme pick, I get it, it's fine.
Alright, moving on, we got the Burger Kingler.
Wait, I just want to say something, because I just checked. Corsola gets Regenerator and has higher defense and special defense stats than Audino.
This is why he's higher than that team.
Audino has a way higher HP, but it's still kind of funny.
Alright. Got Burger Kingler with the Manaphy, Scolipede, Metagross, Snorlax, Serena, Blaziken, Alomomola, Diancie, Golurk, Deoxys, Speed, and Zapdos. I told Trevor this, if you aren't speed passing into Manaphy every week, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, it's great. I like Manaphy a lot. Back in 6th Gen, it was my favorite mon to use. It's got a little bit worse in my opinion, but still very, very good. Metagross. See, I don't really like Metagross. I've never found success with it or had people that I've seen use it really well. I mean, it could be well. It's fairly bulky, and it could be offensive.
On top of that, the Deoxys Speed I used before, and while it's okay, you can't really, there's no real team synergy between your Scolipede and Deoxys, because like if you're going to be speed passing and everything, you can't really speed pass into Snorlax unless you're a real big memester. You can go into Deoxys Speed, but buddy, you can
Speed pass into Deoxys Speed.
Speed back to Deoxys Speed. I can see you speed passing in the Blaziken a ton for the possible sweeps. But besides that, you can't really use the Scolipede too much. Besides, like, just speed passing or just trying to set up himself.
Yeah, and Zapdos, I really like Zapdos. It can be defensive, offensive, Choice Scarf, great defogger. That electric stab can just hit so many things. It's going to be cool to see.
Alright, moving on. We got the Melbourne Metagross. Volcanion, Hydreigon, Mamoswine, Flygon, Hawlucha, Marowak, Alola, Roserade, Magneton, Togetic, Miltank, and Tapu Lele. Now, Tapu Lele, Hydreigon, and Volcanion I just love. I like.
Yeah, this team based around Tapu Lele, which we can clearly see, it's very, very good. The main problem with it that keeps you from being number one is that it's so dependent on Tapu Lele. I mean, it still has that offensive presence and like Mamoswine and stuff. However, Tapu Lele is just going to help you so much because you can block those. I was going to say Ice Shard, but I realized you don't have a 4 times Ice Resist weakness. Actually, you do Flygon, but
yeah.
stuff like that. It's going to be very cool to see Tapu Lele be used.
And as Trevor said, but the only problem is you take away Lele and your team becomes meh. You add Lele, it becomes amazing. So just be mindful that people will target that down.
Yeah, because they're going to run Papaya Berry to beat the Psychic type moves or the Roselli Berry. It's going to be kind of... You're going to be prepped a lot for that Tapu Lele.
Alright. Next team, we got the Durham Dredigons with Mew, Thundurus T, Conkeldurr, Togekiss, Haxorus, Nidoqueen, Bronzong, Virizion, Pyukumuku, I think I said that right, Kangaskhan, and Darkrai.
Now, I remember watching Darkrai just fall down the board because I thought it'd be a top 3 pick. And someone grabbed Weavile before Darkrai, and I just kind of yelled at them internally. And then this guy on the wheel pick proceeds to grab Mew and Darkrai. And then finishes off the Psychic Dark Fighting Core with Conkeldurr, which is just so good.
An even bigger problem is the Munium Z move is not banned. So
Yeah.
I believe we're going to be seeing a lot of just you Munium Z moving everything.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty weird. Togekiss is very good for the flinch hacks. It gets Defog, which your team is going to like because of the Thundurus T. The main problem that I see, which is the only thing that this team lacks, is that it doesn't really have a defensive backbone for you to just always use. I mean, Bronzong's good, Nidoqueen can be defensive, and Mew can be defensive. However, you don't have something that's just going to constantly be there to live hits.
Alright, the next team we have is the Charlotte Beedrills with Excadrill, Latios, Sylveon, amazing core, Galvantula, Vaporeon, Hitmontop, Rotomo, Typhlosion, Quagsire, Greninja, Protean, and Zoroark.
Now, this is the number 1 team, by the way.
Boy, oh boy. Zoroark to turn into everything else, swiping them out. You've got Excadrill, can be anything. It could be just your spinner, Stealth Rocks. I don't know why you do that, but reasons.
Excadrill is pretty good specially defensive, too, because even though its special defense is only like 80-ish, its HP stat is really high, so it can live like Draco Meteors and all that stuff.
Blow us all back when running that AV Excadrill. We got the Latios, which, as like its counterpart Latias, comes in, throws out some Draco Meteors, leaves, repeats the process. Can also, I believe, just set up Calm Minds. And then Sylveon becomes anything. I love Sylveon, one of my favorite Pokemons. It can be run its specs, kill everything, run it Wish, save everything. Galvantula runs Sticky Webs and just slow everything while the rest of your team kills everything. And then Greninja Protean, just a monster.
Yeah, and one thing that I didn't really see as you drafted it, but Typhlosion, the main thing you use Typhlosion for is just Eruption, because it just kills stuff. Base 250 power, which is like Explosion, when you're at full health. And you have the Sticky Webs, so you can just run Specs Explosion and just totally nuke some stuff.
Alright, that concludes today's power rankings. We'll be back next week with week 1. We hope you agree with our picks, and if you don't, we really could not care less. And we'll hope you to see you in the next video.
Yeah, and the one thing that I just want to say is that this is purely on the draft itself. We didn't take into much consideration how good the player is, mainly because we hadn't heard of most of them. And this won't be in full consideration next week. For example, if the Charlotte Beedrills get 6-0'd by the Colorado Mamoswines, we won't take into fact that the Charlotte Beedrills are the best team and keep them up pretty high. So just know that.
Alright. I'm going to edit some of my shaky speech out, but whatever.
Yeah, mine too.